Peyton Peoples. Who are you?
Megan Mulvey.
Who are you?
I'm Eric Slepian.
Awesome. We're here for episode 11 of the Home Tour podcast. We are in a different location today, if you have not noticed. So we are hanging out with Eric Slepian in Peachtree City of Slepian Schwartz, and he is our favorite closing attorney. So we have lots of legal questions to ask him and go through the whole process of what it's like to work this side of the real estate transaction, because it's very different than the stuff that we deal with every day. So why don't you tell us a little bit about you, how you got into this, why you continue to work in this crazy industry, whatever else you want to share.
Absolutely. Thank you, Peyton and Megan. And thanks for having me. So, real estate. First, a disclaimer. Not being a lawyer does not come with a disclaimer. My two lowest grades in law school were real estate and contract.
I love that.
This is what I do
every day.
So school doesn't always equal real life.
I
Right.
preach.
But I like to say that I practice happy law.
That is the truth.
Because we're helping people get homes and plan for the future, wills and things like that. We do have some attorneys in our office who practice the not so happy law, and they love it, but you couldn't pay me not to do that.
Yeah. No, thank you. No, thank you.
So on the real estate side, it's just to help people like you do it for this reason, right? To help people find their home and establish a place where their families can be safe and happy and grow up. I mean, there's not a better way to do it.
Right.
Not a better thing to do, in my opinion.
I completely agree with you. So how long have you been in the South Atlanta area?
So I've been in Peachtree City since 1991.
Okay.
Yeah, so going on 33 years.
Wow.
And I moved here from the Northeast, from New York, and came down here.
I don't believe you.
and it was quite an adjustment.
I can believe that.
Especially back then. So
okay.
What I didn't realize about the South was how slow things were. I mean, my father is a doctor in Stone Mountain. He just retired at 82.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I first came down to visit him, he sent me to the pharmacy to go pick something up. And I went there and I had what I was picking up for him, waiting in line to check out. And there's one guy in front of me and he's talking to the clerk and they're just talking and they're talking.
Like,
I'm like,
nothing else to do today.
And finally, 25 minutes later, the clerk looks at me and says, "Oh, did you want to buy that?" I said, "Yeah."
I was thinking about it. I don't know.
Welcome to the South, right?
That is
And actually, my first week as an attorney in the South, I had a client that told me that they were going to get something to me Monday week. And I had no idea what that meant. I didn't know what that meant. This Monday, a week from Monday. So it is a week from Monday.
Okay.
Monday week.
Okay.
Just in case
you're not from here,
yeah.
or you hear that.
So
that's
I've been here a long time.
Okay. Awesome. So how busy do you guys stay?
We stay really busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because in my little fantasy world, I'm the only adult.
Well,
So,
yeah. That's the reality that we live in.
Right, exactly. But the real estate side really has been great to us and to our firm. And we have been able to expand into other areas of practice because of it, because real estate's a great gate opener for other areas of law. If you go to the closing and somebody's moving here and they've never been here before, and we're the first contact they've had with an attorney, if we do a good job, then they want us to do other things.
Yep.
So that's caused our practice to expand into other areas. But we average, I would say, between typically 150 and 250 closings a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
most of them are from Peyton Peoples and Company.
That's right.
I mean, it is. Yeah.
You're too much. Okay. So that is a really good segue, though, because here's what I deal with on the realtor side of things, especially because I'm dealing with mostly relocation clients. So they may be from out of state, and they show up and we're doing the contracts, and then they start to see, oh, the closing attorney's holding the earnest money, or what do you mean we're closing closing is at a closing attorney? Why aren't we closing at a title company? So kind of give us the synopsis of what makes Georgia so special and different.
Mm-hmm. Special is a good word.
Mm-hmm.
In Georgia, the conducting a real estate closing is considered to be the practice of law. Mm-hmm. So only a licensed Georgia attorney can conduct it. And according to the way the law currently is, it has to be conducted in person. So we don't have title companies like they have in most of the rest of the country. It really is attorneys that have to conduct the closing. We are agents for the title insurance company, just like the title companies would be. Mm-hmm. So we issue the title insurance, but we have to conduct the closing. And that means that we have to be in charge of the entire closing process. Mm-hmm. We search title. We clear up any title issues. We prepare the documents. We receive and disperse the funds. We record the documents. Everything that touches the closing is what we're in charge of at that point.
Yeah.
And that is very different from other states.
Yes.
So, and one of the other things that's really different is we have in Georgia what are called or referred to as wet closings. Mm. So what I mean by wet closings, the opposite of that would be an escrow closing. So particularly in states where there are title companies, they close in escrow, which means the buyer comes in one day and signs all their documents. The seller comes in a different day, signs all their documents, and then none of the funds get dispersed until both parties have signed and everything's been recorded. Mm-hmm. Here, the buyer and seller get to be in the same roome at the same time. And they sign everything. And I mean, most of the time that's good. Sometimes not so good. Depending on how aggressive the negotiations have been until that point.
Yeah. There's only been a couple times that I've come to your team and said, I think we might need separate closing.
We've had plenty of conference rooms, so we've done that before. But it is funny for me to watch a lot of times because the parties have never met until they meet in our office. So a lot of times they're like, well, so we're going to all be in the same room together? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I like it better. I actually think it's a better way.
I do too. Of doing it. It makes it more personal.
It does. And there's always questions that the buyer has of the seller, or the seller has information for the buyer. And it's just, a great way for them to have those conversations.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. So again, with Georgia being a special state compared to others, what are some of the things that come up that are like common questions that you hear from either side of the transaction, from buyers or sellers, that maybe differ or very different from maybe what they've dealt with from other real estate transactions in the past?
I think there are really two things that are kind of different here that they don't expect. The first is having an attorney involved in the transaction. The next question logically is, well, who do you represent? Because an attorney should have a client. Well, if there's a lender involved, then the attorney represents the lender. Mm-hmm. If there's no attorney or no lender involved, rather, then the attorney really doesn't represent either party. We're more representing the transaction, if that is a thing. Mm-hmm. So we can't take the buyer side against the seller or vice versa. We're there to follow and fulfill what's in the contract and make sure the funds are received and dispersed and the documents are signed and recorded.
Yeah.
So we get that a lot.
Yeah. And what I love particularly about closing with you guys as compared to what you might refer to as a lesser closing attorney.
As I do refer to.
Yes.
As we all should.
Yes, yeah. I agree. Is that you actually take the time to explain the documents that are being presented to both sides. You are not, I've never had you or any of the other attorneys here feel as though they were playing sides or giving attention to one side more than the other. Both sides get the equal amount of explanation of what the documents are that are being signed, as opposed to sometimes when I've closed at other places, we're pushing paper across the table, and it's just...
Okay, so now I'm going to ask a question.
Yeah.
Because one of the, if it's not really a downside, but one of the things about being a closing attorney is I don't get to go to closings
anywhere else.
Yeah, so I have no idea how anybody else conducts their closings other than the way we do it. So some of the attorneys' offices don't explain the documents.
Correct.
Is that...
There, you can be mad at me if you want. I'm going to say it.
I'll say yes.
I have never closed any other location here or anywhere else on the South Side that explains the documents the way that you guys do.
I've had them hand them to me and have me explain them.
Really?
Yes.
Well, because growing up in Illinois, I did that anyways.
Okay.
And because we closed at title companies. So I'm used to that.
So do you use my speech?
The only one I use is if you don't pay, you don't pay.
Oh, there you go.
So I took that one.
Yep. I do always try to have the conversation with my clients prior to showing up that they need to know how to sign their name in cursive.
Well, that is a thing now.
Yes.
Yeah. And a lot of the lenders are requiring that, and I've had to write out the cursive alphabet.
Yes, and I do make sure that I share that with my clients.
And the same person, I had to show them how to fill out a check.
Oh, my word.
But it's happening so often now that, we're in my conference room thinking about getting those things that they have in the kindergarten classrooms with the cursive around the top.
Oh, that's smart.
So I could say, okay, just do that.
Yeah. Reference the ceiling.
Pick out your letters.
Use your real name.
Your middle name.
Yeah.
I would say the other thing you mentioned earlier, which was, what do you mean we have to go to an office to do this instead of doing it electronically? And really, it's your fault. And it's your fault.
You're welcome.
Because you spoil them. Before they ever get to me, they've electronically signed the contracts. They've been sending you documents electronically. We get here and they're like, what's all this paper? And I have to write my name in cursive. We don't have the ability to do electronic closings in Georgia yet. Yeah, it's coming, but not there yet.
Day.
And ask me why.
Why?
I'm so glad you asked. Because in order for us to do electronic closings in Georgia, every county, and there's 159 of them, have to be set up to accept electronic recordings.
Well,
and there's some pretty rural counties.
Well, we've already talked about how slow Georgia is.
Oh, yeah.
So.
There's one county in South Georgia. If we want to search the deed records, we first have to go to the hardware store across the street, because that's where the clerk works.
Probably from where I grew up.
And get the key to the record room, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you go down there and you start talking about scanning and emailing to lock you up.
Yeah.
That is Sawgrass Junction, Georgia. So I think people are surprised by that. And then the third thing I would say that they're surprised about is the nature of the funds. So in Georgia, there's a law. Any funds for real estate closing that are in excess of $5,000 have to be sent by wire transfer, which used to not be the case. You could get a cashier's check. You could do an electronic transfer in ACH. You could write a personal check. No. Now in Georgia, anything over $5,000 has to be wired. And a wire is not the same thing as an electronic transfer.
Right.
Right.
Which a lot of people are very confused by.
They are. And a lot of buyers coming here from another state will think that they can sit actually in our waiting area. We've had this happen on their app and try and arrange the wire. No, that's a transfer. That's not going to work.
Right.
Right. So we actually had a closing where a lady from Wyoming did that. She sat out here and tried to arrange her wire, only to be told that the small bank in Wyoming required the account holder to come in person.
Oh, no.
So instead of closing that day, we went to the airport and she got on a plane going to Wyoming and closed 3 days later.
Sounds big. We're done.
You stay in this business long enough, you see.
Yes.
So I think those are the things that people are not used to seeing when they come here from another state.
Yeah. So Megan, from your side of things with like the mortgage process and the fact that like here he would represent the mortgage company, how does that work as far as y'all's communication prior to closing date?
Yeah, well, we're in constant communication. So I mean, everything from title for the property, I'm back and forth with their closing team. Coordinating everything, balancing the final numbers, and just making sure that we both add up on our end. I mean, we're in constant communication. Almost daily, I get emails.
Yeah, I would say.
We have something going.
And the last thing either one of us wants is for somebody to be surprised.
Oh, yeah.
Numbers closing
That's
date.
not fun.
That's the worst kind of day.
I try and never let that happen. That's my goal.
I've never had that happen with anything that you've done, anything Christian's done. I've never had that happen.
My favorite thing is when you're presenting the documents, you always say, 3 business days ago, you should have received a document that looks something like this. And I always think to myself, in what world? Because the other closing attorney, they're just like, sign this, sign this, initial here, and you have no idea what you're even signing.
Thank you. But you know what happens if they did not receive that document 3 business days prior to closing?
It's a bad day.
We don't close.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everybody gets to go home and try again.
Try again. And nobody's happy.
Nobody is happy. That is a bad day.
That is a bad day.
Yeah. So again, with working with a team of people who understand the rules, you have a lender that understands the timeline, you have an agent that knows, I need to see this document, my clients need to see this document prior. But also, it just makes it easier working with a team of lawyers and all the people who work with you and the closing team, that 9 times out of 10, that's not even something that we're even having to ask for. It's always provided within the right time frame. And so it's one of those things that when I get a contract as a listing agent and they're like, oh, we want to close here, my clients already know we would rather close at Slepian because it's going to be a better...
Thank you.
Yes, it's going to be better for everybody.
Well, and it is, I mean, Megan's point was really the key to it is communication. And you have to be able to talk. And when you're in the real estate business, either the real estate business, the mortgage business, the real estate closing business, when the clients have a question, that's the time when you work. So it's not that, it's after 5 o'clock, we can't communicate anymore. I mean, we communicate all the time, right? I mean, whenever they have a question, that's when we need to be able to answer it.
Yes.
So, I mean, there's no, we email till all hours. Back and forth.
All the time.
And then if something really goes wrong, we get on a phone call.
That's never fun.
No. Actually, that's one of the worst things about being an attorney. Can I share that with everybody?
Please.
Okay. Is I can't call somebody without them picking up the phone and saying, "What happened?" I can't call Peyton and go, "Hey, I just tried this great restaurant." I'll call Peyton and she'll be like, "What?"
Yeah.
Which deal?
Yeah. Just immediate panic. Just something is wrong and everything is falling apart. What is happening? Yeah. No, that's absolutely true. So what I really want to spend some time on is you kind of talking about how you are involved in the community and what you are contributing to our local area and the different businesses and everybody that you partner with and support. Because if you are around our area, if you know anything about literally anything that I do or that, the Board of Realtors does, our brokerage does, other brokerages do, 9 times out of 10, you're going to see Slepian Schwartz logo that they're supporting something. So I know that we talk about this constantly on the podcast of this is what kind of brought the 4 of us together is how important being connected within the community and understanding the people that you work with and the people that you share this community with and how important they are in the growth of your business. So knowing that we have that in common, we'd love to hear from you about why that's important to you guys.
Oh, it's so important. I mean, I've lived in the community, like I said, going on 33 years. And back then there was one restaurant.
Shadows.
That was the only restaurant. And I will tell you what a big deal it was when Kmart opened. That was huge. We had a Kmart. Big time.
Yep.
But Peachtree City is kind of a special community. I mean, people joke that it's the bubble, nothing bad ever happens here, and that's true. But everybody in this community cares about each other, I think. And there are people that have really serious needs here, and a lot of times those needs aren't met, and we as professionals, I think, owe an obligation back to our community or support the people that are here because they support us.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
plus, it's being a good neighbor.
Yes.
It's no different than anything else.
Yeah.
If your neighbor next door needed something, you'd be right there, unless like we were telling that story earlier. We don't want those kind of but for everybody else in town, I mean, and I would hope, and I know they would, that if I was ever in need,
Mm-hmm.
that the community would be there to support us as well.
Yep.
And that's just me. It's all the attorneys and all the staff in our office. We all feel that way.
Absolutely. Yep.
It's culture, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's the most important thing about everything that we do is making sure that, I don't think that we've had an episode yet that we have not talked about how important it is building culture that extends past professional, but goes to your clients' relationships and treating everybody the same and giving everybody the same level of quality of everything they receive from you. So, and we keep talking about partnering with other vendors that are meeting that same way of doing business, and this is the prime example. I feel like.
In fact, and I'm not sure that you can do this, but can you see the artwork that's on my wall there?
Yes.
It's not on camera, so maybe you can
take
a picture and put it up there. Okay.
Impose it.
So that is a sound wave.
Okay.
Okay, and it is together the two sayings by which we run our business and live our lives.
That's so
The first
cool.
sentence is do the right thing. The second sentence is don't be a jerk.
Funny.
The end. Thanks for coming.
That's true, right?
It is. We joke about this all the time about how the stuff that we see and deal with in this industry is just every day is different. And when you think you've seen it all, no, you haven't.
It's like taking a coffee cup.
Like taking a coffee cup.
Yeah.
Again, we talked about this earlier. If you would like to know more, you can email us at thehometourpodcast.com.
Exactly.
Oh, gladly.
We would love to fill you in on the craziness that goes on. But it's just, don't be a jerk.
Don't be a jerk.
Just be a good neighbor and be a good person and be good to the people around you. And
it's kind of the golden rule, right?
Right. Treat other people the way you want to be treated, and it's all going to come back and be great for everyone. So that's what makes this area so special. I think
is.
Too.
I agree.
I do have a question.
You have a question. I have a question.
So I would like to know a little bit more about the importance of title insurance.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about that.
Yes.
Because we actually that's something that a lot of people are not familiar with, and they don't ever have a conversation about it. So title insurance ensures that you'll be the title owner of the property and that no one will come forward with a better claim to the property than the claim that you have. There's two types of title insurance. There's lender's title insurance and there's owner's title insurance. Lenders always require title insurance. They won't do a transaction without it. And that protects the lender's interest in the property to the extent of the loan amount. The second type is owner's title insurance. Now, that's the only item on your closing disclosure that is shown as optional. But in my opinion, it shouldn't be. I would never buy property without it. Because while the lender's interest in the property is protected, your down payment, your future equity in that property, when you pay the loan down or if prices increase, is not protected against a claim against the title. And we do see title claims come up. They did a survey in Georgia a couple of years ago now that determined that 1 in 3 titles in Georgia have problems.
Wow.
And some are more serious than others, obviously, but one of the biggest problems is that, unlike other areas of the law, when it comes to real estate, there's no statute of limitations. So it could be a claim that came up 100 years ago that now just comes to light, and if you happen to be the owner of that property, you could be in some serious trouble. So we see it all the time. We do a title search, but that only is as good as the deed records. There are lots of other things that could come up that could adversely affect the title that wouldn't show up on there. And truthfully, Christian, the best thing about the title insurance is the way it works. It's a one-time fee. It covers you as long as you own the property. If you ever have a claim, you turn to the title insurance company. They pay the attorneys. They defend the claim. If they win, you win. Everything's great. If they lose, then they write a check to you for the equity you have in the property. That's how it works. That's why I recommend it. You spend more in the first couple of hours talking to an attorney about the problem than the actual cost of the insurance. And we'll really see it not just on the buyer side, but on the seller side. Like I said earlier, we search title. And if there's an issue, we try and clear the title. Well, there are some title problems that can't be cleared very easily. So the next question will be, does the seller have an owner's title insurance policy from when they bought the home? And if they do, 99% of the time that closing can take place. And if they don't, it's probably not going to close.
Mhm.
So that's title insurance in a nutshell. I would never buy property without it. I just see too much come up. But
I strongly recommend it as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
We were just in a situation, the first time for me, that we were, on a contract just like a week before closing and something came up, and then we can close.
Yeah.
Because, again, no title insurance for the previous owners. I think it's very important.
Oh, it's very important.
I think a lot of people see that optional word on the
Yeah, exactly.
closing disclosure that they should have seen 3 days prior to closing.
Right.
And especially if they've been hit with surprises, that might have increased their out-of-pocket expenses towards the end, or they're just done and ready to get to the closing table. If that's optional, that's the first thing that they want to see go.
And let me say this. Our policy in our office is when somebody says that they don't want an owner's title insurance policy when they get the preliminary numbers from us, we will not take it off the settlement statement until they actually talk to their attorney in our office to understand what it is. And when we do that, I would say 99.9% of the time, people realize how. Yeah, because it really is that important.
Yeah.
And just, I can tell you a quick story.
Yeah, please.
That illustrates the point. This actually happened. So there was a 25-year-old subdivision in Smyrna. And so a lot of people had a lot of equity built up in their homes over 25 years from when it was new. All those people had paid down their mortgages and property values went up. And you hear jokes about it, but it really happened. A Native American Indian tribe made a claim that was based on a 100-year-old treaty that predated the deed records.
Oh my gosh.
And their claim turned out to be valid. They took back every home in that subdivision. And about a third of the owners had owner's title insurance. Everybody lost everything they had invested in their homes.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my word.
So.
Well.
So,
but that's a perfect example of why it's
a good
important.
Example.
It really is. And it was a real life example.
Right.
It's actually part of the Trail of Tears right now.
Oh my word.
So what advice would you offer to individuals who are going through real estate closing in Georgia for the first time to ensure a smooth and successful transaction?
If you're going to give me a softball like that, you have to work with Payton, Peoples, and Company.
Yes.
That's it.
And I love
and the vendors, right? Yeah. And Christian and Megan. Yeah. That really is the answer. That you have to work with a professional realtor that knows how the transaction works.
Right.
And the same way you were talking about lesser attorneys, there are realtors that maybe don't do it as often, don't do it as a full-time profession.
Right.
And a lot of times they don't know what they don't know. And we see that quite often.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I love that. So, okay, going off of that though, when you're working from your side of the transaction, and maybe you're working with somebody who doesn't close a whole lot, what does that look like as far as like time, effort spent versus working with a more experienced agent? Not to say, everybody's got to start somewhere.
True.
But there's a vast difference between those who know what they're doing and those who do not.
True. and there's a difference between experience and longevity. Just because somebody's been a realtor for a long time, it's not the same thing as having experienced what the current market is like.
Go ahead and preach, Eric.
Things are very
Go ahead.
Things are very different now than they were 5 years ago.
That's my favorite thing to be asked. How long have you been in this business? And then if I say anything other than what's less than them,
40.
Which is probably older.
I've been in this 43 years.
Yeah.
There's your headshot.
Oh, yeah. From the photographer. Anyway.
I know. I'm leaving mine because mine's just.
We don't talk about that.
I actually had a realtor one time who had been in business, longer than I had been an attorney. And she was arguing with me about what the contract said and what the contract meant. Now, granted, contracts was my lowest grade in law school.
kind of doing.
I may or may not know what I'm talking
Having
about.
been an attorney now and, coming to my own with it. So I felt like we were not talking the same language. So I finally said, read to me what you have in your contract there that you're talking about. And she said, well, I've got a blank one here. I'll just read it off of that. And I said, fine. And she read it. And it was a 10-year-old form.
Oh, boy.
It wasn't the current form. So the language was different, about who was going to pay what. So that's longevity and experience are two different things. But, we actually, truthfully, even though it's more work for us, when we do run into a situation where the realtor doesn't have enough experience or isn't really handling the transaction in a way that they're happy about, we all in the office treat it as an opportunity to educate. Anything that makes our real estate industry better is better for all of us.
Yeah. And I can attest to that. I've seen that from the other side of the transaction when things are not going well, or if we end up at a impasse of somebody can't understand what we're saying. You or whoever is dealing with the file will always, without hesitation, step in immediately and use that as an educational opportunity.
And you educate, and they may not take the lesson timely. They might do it as part of that transaction, but I've had it happen many times where afterwards the realtor would contact me and say, okay, tell me more about that, because now I think I understand what you were saying about it. But it's hard when you're in the heat of the moment, and a lot of times your customers want you to be a bulldog, which is fine. You should be zealous advocates for your customers, but don't be a jerk.
Right.
Right.
Okay, I want to ask you. Yes, you can. I want to ask you one other thing, and if you were like, "No, okay, shut up. I'm not going to answer that." That's fine.
I'll answer any question you ask.
Okay. So currently, your office is in Peachtree City.
Yes.
Are you opening any other offices to expand your service area?
Not imminently.
Okay.
How about that?
Okay.
But
that was the shut up, Peyton. I'm not answering.
No, it's really not. But there are opportunities that we're looking at, yes, to open a second office.
Okay.
So we'll see. I hope so.
Yeah.
And that way we can duplicate what we did here somewhere else.
Yep.
One thing we haven't talked about, though, that is really important, and I meant to talk about it, is okay if I jump in?
Yep.
Okay. Is wire fraud.
Yes, please.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. So we see it is a real problem in our industry. We see attempted wire fraud in our office 3 or 4 times a month.
Good Lord.
And it used to be so easy to tell when a fraudulent email would come over because it would always say, hello, friend, or greetings, and their grammar was atrocious and all that. But now, believe it or not, with AI, it is getting awfully hard to tell. And what is happening is the fraudsters are monitoring email traffic between everybody involved in the transaction, between Megan and the borrower and you and me. And so they're gathering information. They know a lot about what's going on in that transaction. They know the date it's going to close. They know the parties' names. They know your names. They know the address of the property. They know the sales price. And what they will do is they will jump in a day or two before closing, spoofing somebody in the transaction as though they're them, and say, okay, here's the amount you owe, and here's the wiring instructions. And it happened. We had a lady wire $186,000 to a fraudulent account.
Oh, God. She
got an email, she thought, from the realtor, had the realtor's picture and, all their contact information that said, go to the bank on Friday. It's always a Friday. For closing next week, wire this amount. Here's the wiring instructions for the closing attorney's office. So I went to the bank, got out of the bank, called the realtor, said, okay, I'm leaving the bank. And the realtor said, what are you doing at the bank? And she said, I got your email. I said, I didn't send you an email.
Oh, my God.
So she turned right back around, went inside, gone.
Too late.
Oh, my God.
Like Germany gone.
Yeah.
Get it back gone. So we see it all of the time. And ironically, what we're having to do to combat it is go back to old school.
Mm-hmm.
You get wiring instructions, you look up our firm on the internet. Don't call us based on the number that's on the wiring instructions. You look up our firm, you call us, and everybody in my office will be more than happy to take that call and verify the wiring instructions.
Yep.
I mean, because it is that important.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I immediately have the conversation with my clients, and it's in every email. It's part of my signature.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's one of the things I love about y'all's signatures is everything is like color coded in huge, bright letters. Like, don't do these things, but even still, they will do them. So again, making sure that you're working with people who are going to explain the dangers of what can happen like this during a transaction. I mean, losing $5,000 or losing $200,000, it doesn't matter. It could be detrimental to the deal, your life, your retirement account. Everything about that is just awful. So
there was a circuit court judge in New York just this past year sent $1.5 million
stop it.
to a fraudulent account to buy her condo in New York City.
Oh my God.
And it was gone.
Nope. Good thing I took my anxiety meds today.
Oh my God. The nausea slowly.
Yeah. And I want to make a point to say, because the more we educate that that's the thing, you know, people will realize.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because that's just one of those things that you should be working with somebody that's one of the first things that you talk about, that, you know, my clients know from the get-go.
Yeah.
If you're talking to me, if you're talking to my transaction coordinator, it doesn't matter. If you're talking to anybody that's part of my team, there will never be a time that we are going to provide you with the wiring instructions. Do not call me and ask for them. It could be, you know, if you want to call me and ask, my immediate reaction is, this is the closing attorney. Give them a call. Do your own research. Find their number. Because I don't trust literally anything. Right. I don't want to have anything to do with that. So
I mean, as familiar as we are with it, it's still hard to ferret it out sometimes.
Yeah.
So somebody that has no idea is just gonna. And I mean, let's face it. Most people are involved in real estate transactions just a few times in their lives, and years apart. So it's not something they would necessarily know as an issue. I mean, great, the attorney sent me the wire instructions. I might as well wire it early so I can make sure it gets there, and then that's it.
Yep. Okay.
I've got a fun question.
Yes.
So what do you do, like if you have a hard closing, what do you do to decompress afterwards?
Eat cookies.
Well,
Eat cookies.
Well, first of all, if I know it's going to be a hard closing, I walk over to Gary Schwartz and say, "You're closing this."
Tag your it. Now hold on. Okay, come back, wrap around, because we need to close the gap on how you guys are connected.
Okay. I'll go back to that. So, in answer to your question, what do I do? Scotch is good.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, video games.
We all need some mindless scrolling or electronic time.
Something.
Something.
Yeah. Actually, you know, the violence in the video games is helpful to take out. People say violence in video games is a bad thing. I don't know.
It's working for you.
It's working for me.
Okay, so Slepian is you.
Slepian is me.
So what's the other half?
Gary Schwartz.
Okay. Who is he?
So Gary is the other partner. He's also my cousin.
Keeping it in the family.
Yep. So we've had our firm together, I think, since 1993.
Okay.
Yeah. And the only reason that he's still alive is because I love my Aunt Elaine. I'm not even kidding. I can't believe I'm going to put this on camera.
It's all right. Found out
She's like 93. And when she passes away, it's going to be very sad. But Gary Schwartz made this.
Just awful.
Just, you know, we can edit that out.
but you can sleep tonight.
I did. Thank you. For that opportunity.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. No,
but we've been together for a long time, and he's really good. He's now. This is the perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Ready?
Okay.
He's never been married, and I put a bounty out there This is not a joke, actually. I will pay $1,000 to anyone who can get Gary Schwartz married.
Okay.
And
Challenge accepted.
and I'll pay for the wedding.
Oh.
There you go.
Okay, so what are we looking for?
We need a detailed home tour.
Someone who's willing.
Okay.
Willing.
Of legal age.
It has to be voluntary. Okay. But my life would be instantly better if he was married.
That is hilarious. You guys really are.
Peru real quick.
I don't care.
You guys are
Well, it's
oil and water.
Yes,
Or,
we are.
night and day.
We are completely different.
As you are both fantastic at what you do. Clearly, you guys wouldn't have been in business this long if you weren't. But it's even just the experience is different with
Right.
each of you.
We have different
Closing,
personalities.
very much so.
Plus, you'll get to hear his ailment of the day.
Oh,
He's the biggest hypochondriac.
You said it, not me.
He came in the other day and said that his pancreas hurts.
Specifically,
Oh, my
bless his heart.
There's a thing in the office of guess Gary's ailment.
Look, okay. Other thing is, you have an office dog,
We do, yeah.
and so a lot of people need to know that before coming for a closing.
Mhm.
He does follow a very strict schedule,
He does.
so
He gets his hair done on Fridays.
okay, so make note of that if you're just not a dog person or if you're deathly afraid of dogs.
Well, we'll lock him up if we know that
But
somebody's coming over.
Come on Friday.
But he's a big shaggy dog.
Mhm.
Dumb
he's the
dog.
sweetest. He's
He's
not
dumbest dog.
No, he's not.
Megan, that dog has failed boot camp 4 times.
What kind of dog is he?
He's a sheepadoodle.
He's a sheepadoodle.
Cross between sheepdog and poodle.
Mhm.
Was that 4 times?
Yeah.
And the last time he failed, the trainer who trains police dogs told us he's reached the limit of his mental capacity.
He is.
He's gone as
so
far as he
pretty.
can go with what he has. He is pretty.
He's so pretty.
He's so nice.
He's so pretty. Yeah.
He's so pretty.
He's afraid of 2 things. He's afraid of tall men.
Interesting.
Nothing bad has ever happened.
He didn't. He's came up to you after you sat down.
Yeah.
See, he sat down, right?
Yeah.
Because toddlers
Sat
tall.
down,
So if you're sitting there, he'll let you pet him all day long. You stand up, he's like, whoa,
Yeah.
when did you get here? And then he's afraid of sparkly shoes. Sparkly shoes are
I mean, yeah.
Sparkly shoes are very scary.
I mean, that dog.
I know some agents. Please don't come in.
No, but it is, actually one of the reasons that we got him. I mean, we wanted a dog anyway, and my wife and I work together here.
Mhm.
And we work such long hours that it wouldn't be fair for a dog, right? So we wanted a dog to come in, but we also didn't realize he's a great therapy
Absolutely.
addition to this firm.
Yes.
I mean, we will, when some of our staff are having a moment, I mean, they will walk up and they will just have a couple of,
I feel like that's a doodle thing.
It
All
is.
3 of us have
Uh-huh.
doodles. So I will say I have 2 doodles, and they just instinctively know that they need to go and sit or be
Right.
near you,
Mm-hmm.
or they'll seek out the person. The whole lobby could be full, and Cecil will go and find the one person who needs some pepper love. So
That's right.
he is the
Or
sweetest.
they'll take them for a walk and, they come back and everybody's good.
I love it. He's so cute. He is huge.
What's all hair?
He is all hair because he goes to the spa every week.
He's like this tall, but he's only 50 pounds.
Right?
So.
He every Friday. That's
Every Friday,
where he
yeah.
is.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. Also, keeping that local, he goes to a local business.
He does, right
Across the street.
Yep.
So, thank you for hanging out with us today.
Thanks for letting me. This was really
Yes.
fun.
Thank you.
We really appreciate the
Hopefully let me do it
opportunity.
again.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
We just need a couple more mugs to be stuffed.
Yeah.
Again, email to
Yeah. Get the backstory. We'll pass that along.
Paul. Thank you. Thank you for letting me do this.
Yes.
I love you guys. There's nothing I wouldn't do to help you and everybody in the industry and this community.
Absolutely. We love it. And we're super excited to have this kind of resource available on the podcast and to be able to have this available and live forever, so that if you have questions about things or you don't understand anything that we said, you need to say, hey, I listened, and at 13 minutes and 48 seconds, I need more information about that topic, we can help you out.
You can even feel free to put my email somewhere in there.
Okay.
So if somebody has any questions, they can
Absolutely.
reach out to me directly.
We will do that.
And in our firm, anytime somebody emails me for something like that,
Mhm.
I don't ever charge for that. I'd much rather have them reach out and ask a question and avoid a problem than try to clean up after it becomes a mess.
Mhm.
Also, myself and the other attorneys, we never leave the office for the day without returning our calls or responding to our emails. So if you reach out, it's going to get back to me before going.
Yep. That's why we love that. All right, that was it. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you.
Yeah, we will see you next week.
Thank you, Eric.
Bye.